Being part of a religious community is different from being part of any other kind of group. Here we focus on justice work as part of our mission. We work to heal the world's broken places as our mission of compassion associated with justice. And we search, individually and together, for things that give meaning to our lives. Our reading today said, "They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer." Now, the spiritual transformation of souls is not a thing one can easily measure to judge the effectiveness of a congregation's shared ministry. There is no numeric rubric through which we can assess the efficiency and effectiveness of congregational process. This is not a factory where we produce widgets that can be counted and measured. The business of a congregation is the transformation of lives. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. We must look into our own hearts to measure how we have grown. We must look at our own lives and consider what kind of a difference our involvement here has made. Have we met new people? Have we learned a new spiritual practice? Have we been encouraged to rethink things we had previously considered to be solid truth? Does being a member or friend of the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the South Jersey Shore deepen your spiritual life? Do the conversations and gatherings and people you experience here bring a deeper meaning to your world? If so, then we are doing our jobs as active members of a spiritual community and welcoming you. I want to share with you a passage from my friend and colleague, the Reverend Teresa Inez Soto. This is from a 2017 sermon delivered when they were serving our congregation in Flint, Michigan. Reverend Soto writes, "Consider these words adapted from one of Unitarian Universalism's preeminent scholars, Mark Morrison Reed. The religious community is essential, for alone our perspective is too narrow to perceive all that must be understood, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our perception widens and our strength is renewed." And Soto comments, "What I mean by this is that it's good for your own heart when you give in community. You can see your own giving power multiplied as you join it with that of others. And when you actually experience this, you experience that you are not alone, that the stories that bubble up when your heart is broken can be counteracted by the truth of your connections. All the believers were together and had everything in common." Members and friends of congregations like ours are really the sole supporters of the work we do and the spiritual care we provide. We don't get annual dispersals of funds from a regional or national body. Oh, that we would. Our congregations are autonomous in the way we govern ourselves, and we are autonomous in the way we support ourselves. While autonomy gives us great freedom, it also brings great responsibility. If we want the mission, ministry, and meaning-making work of this congregation to continue to grow and flourish, then it is up to us to raise the resources to make that happen. And by resources, I speak plainly and I say money. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Now, I don't know any of us who are able to sell off our property and give the proceeds away, prepared to live like St. Francis of Assisi or to travel the world like Peace Pilgrim, without belongings or shelter, trusting the mercy of the goodwill of the people they meet. That is beyond the reach of most of us, certainly beyond my reach, and I would never ask anyone to put themselves at risk in order to support this congregation financially. Understand that. This week, we are kicking off the season of our annual stewardship drive. We need to raise $200,000, and this budget will include some things that we've been working toward. Ideally, we will have increases in the professional development budgets for some of our staff. It will increase my hours from 80% time to 90% time, which means I will be unavailable less often. The congregation will maintain its fair share status in the Unitarian Universalist Association, which serves our denomination with programming, education, leadership development, and with support for congregations through regional field staff like Pat Infante, who was here a couple weeks ago. The UUA also manages the annual ministerial search process that found me, and it supports the formation and fellowship of clergy to one of the highest standards of education, training, professionalism, and ethics in mainstream religion in America. The UUA, while it does not send us a check every year, represents our shared values to the world and supports us as we work to improve our own little corner of the world. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. Now, as Unitarian Universalists and members of this congregation, we gather here on Sundays, yes, but for us, our temple courts, or courtyards, as the author of this passage was describing, are in the cities and towns, in living rooms and kitchens that surround us. Our mission and ministry happen all over South Jersey, and in the sort of thing that brings hope in troubling times. Even with the troubling headlines, though, I find hope. For every headline I read trumpeting one bit of bad news or another, I see real hope in our congregation. I see the men's group show up every month to help out at the soup kitchen run by Asbury United Methodist Church down in Atlantic City. I see people working to organize fundraisers and support Allies in Caring, which provides support for immigrant families in South Jersey. I see support and righteous outrage when our Black Lives Matter sign is vandalized and our rainbow flag is stolen, and celebration when they are replaced. Our neighbors notice what we do, and they care about us and our mission. And that makes it easier to do the hard work of justice. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. I cannot help but think of the celebration gatherings that we have here, seasonally, occasionally, potlucks, circle dinners, the fellowship dinner, coffee houses, together with glad and sincere hearts. That is the truth. So I'm excited for this year's stewardship season, looking forward to another successful campaign. And I know that there is a great deal of enthusiasm and love for this congregation, its people, and the good that it does. I see the seats fill more and more each week as we welcome more and more people, and that makes me happy and gives me hope. For many of us, deep meaning and spiritual transformation come from the work that we do, serving justice and peace in our world. Meaning comes to us through many spiritual practices, and some that we don't even think of as spiritual practices. Feeding the hungry, helping those who are marginalized, listening to a friend who is having a hard time, studying a book together and sharing how it touched you. This is where we are transformed, when we meet one another heart to heart, open, welcoming, giving of ourselves. This is the opportunity now in stewardship to support that deep spiritual work in a most practical way. I plan to increase my pledge this year. I hope you will too. I share again the wisdom of Reverend Teresa Inez Soto. People have long understood that in order to encourage the flow of abundance, it was necessary to encourage the flow of money from hand to hand. They told the parable of the difference between the Sea of Galilee, in which fish and vegetation flourish, and the Dead Sea, which is indeed dead. The Sea of Galilee, they explained, receives water from and gives forth into the Jordan River, so it stays alive. The Dead Sea receives water from the Jordan, but does not give forth. Since the Dead Sea takes without sharing, it deadens itself. Soto also shared, there is an old story of Hebrew wisdom that sums up this kind of giving, that thinks of the recipient and contemplates the long term. Long ago, there lived a righteous man named Honi. One day, he saw an old man planting a carob tree. And Honi said to him, "Foolish man, do you think you will live to eat and enjoy the fruit of that tree that you plant today? It will not bear fruit for many, many years." And the old man replied, "I found trees in this world when I was born. My grandparents planted them for me. Now I am planting for my grandchildren." Honi sat down in the shade of a nearby tree to take a short nap. But his short nap lasted 70 years. When he woke, he was surprised to see a full-grown carob tree where the old man had planted a seed just before he had fallen asleep. An elderly man was picking its fruit. "Are you the man who planted this tree?" asked Honi. "No," replied the man. "My grandfather planted it for me." And so Honi learned the importance of planting seeds for future generations. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. I have told you before about the things congregations want and how they happen. Remember? Financially stable, more members, more outreach, deeper spirituality. And I've told you how that works, which is deeper spirituality, which allows more outreach, which increases your membership, which broadens your financial base. And this is how that works. We act with faith, extending our hearts with love to reach out and connect with others. That is what it means to be part of a group, to be part of a unit, to be part of a community. And that enriches our lives. We deepen our connections with each other and the world around us when we invest in love. We plant a tree that we may never sit beneath. That is the nature of faith work, and that is our mission. Our ministry is like it, to care, to heal, to help, to hold those who need love, those who need to know that they are worth saving, that they are valuable human beings just as they are. This is the place where we encourage one another to dig deep into our journeys, to explore our hearts and find what lies within, to search for truth in whatever form we find it. And this is where we find meaning. Those connections, that work, that searching, the vulnerability and discovery that comes when we allow others to care for us. Now, I don't know if the Lord will bless us with numbers that grow by the thousands, or whether people will stare in wonder at the great works and miracles we perform. But I do know that if we invest in our values and tend them carefully and be good stewards of the resource that is this congregation, we will reap great rewards and future generations will be grateful for what we have planted here. May this be our practice and our prayer. Amen.